Alrighty, welcome to episode 10 of the One Last Cast podcast. My name is Jonathan. We have Merriel here again. Say hello, Merriel.
How you doing, guys?
Well, first off, I wanted to actually thank everybody who is going to be joining us for this episode. This is our 10th episode, which is a big milestone for our podcast. 10 episodes is basically the threshold to see whether you'll be successful or not. We love what we're doing, and hopefully there's 10 more after this. So just wanted to thank everybody for joining in and all that. Um, and yeah, so before we go into today's topic, which is basically how to, go fishing at plan a fishing destination trip or how to travel and fish. Definitely wanted to give a shout out to our sponsors here, 4A Printing. They make awesome towels. We have these One Last Cast podcast towels, custom printed. If you need anything from shirts, towels, or anything like that, Aaron over there, he can probably do it. Reach out to him and definitely go like their page and see what they can do. We also have RA Mobile Bait. Chad is a great guy. He actually just opened up his mobile bait shop. Basically, he's going to be staying underneath the Tiki boat ramp over in Galveston. Just go like his page, and he'll tell you where he's exactly at. He was out there Labor Day weekend and sold out of live shrimp all 3 days. That's amazing. And of course, DSKA. If you're looking for a place for to learn about kayaking, a good group of guys and gals, definitely go check out DSKA. And you'll learn a lot there as well. So, and again, we're gonna actually your story today is going to tie into our topic of traveling and fishing. Recently, you went somewhere, right?
Yeah. So, man, this is a pretty long story.
Okay, so it's a long story. Actually, let's introduce our guest first.
Yeah.
That way he can partake in it, and we'll kind of talk about it afterwards. So we got one of our first freshwater guy, Tim Rodman here. He's traveled all across the country for bass tournaments and all that. I think he'd be a great person to ask for all of your questions about tournaments, traveling for tournaments, and fishing and other places. So let's give a warm welcome and introduce Tim Rodman here. How's it going, Tim?
How's it going, guys? Freshwater representing right here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so like I said, you're our first freshwater guy.
Yeah.
And if y'all guys are for our listeners, if you ever want to hear about freshwater, we're mainly saltwater guys, Merriel and I. If you want to hear about freshwater, just send us a message, and we'll definitely take into consideration. I know Merrill's been itching to do one, but we've been kind of steering to the saltwater because that's kind of our bread and butter here.
Yeah.
But so Merriel, you recently traveled to Florida, I believe, and had an amazing fishing experience.
Yes. So I guess I'll start off with we went to Florida, and we had some bad weather days where we only had one window to go offshore, and it was a small window. It was ducking and dodging storms was our best bet, and the surf was. If you're a first timer, I wouldn't recommend it. But we were with a very experienced guide. Shout out to Brian Neely. That's the guy that helped us get out and get set up. And so we make our way out, and we're looking at storms, on the horizon, and the sun's coming up, and we punch through the surf. For you guys that do offshore, yeah, know what I'm talking about. Basically, you get on your kayak and you go as fast as you can into the waves, so you can break the waves and go up and over or through them. It's a little bit of a wet ride. But the other days there was like 3-footers. Smallest ones were 3-footers. So we went on a day where there was 2 to 3s. I'm guessing. And the morning start off real good. We got out there. We started hooking up onto fish. We were hooking onto big, huge bonitas and kingfish. And as storms kept getting closer and closer to us and closing in on us, that window was getting smaller and smaller, and we're probably around noonish time. And it's like, all right, guys, let's start making the head back. And then, so we're working our way past an inlet. And then as I'm working my way, I kind of decided, you know what, I'm going to drift away from the pack a little bit and try to, just kind of felt something that like, man, let me just get away just a little bit distance from these guys. So I kind of went a little bit further away, and I missed an unusual bite right before that. And I kind of thought about it, and I realized I let him eat it, but I felt like I didn't let him eat it long enough. And that meaning the bait, right? So when he grabs the bait this time, somebody yells something in the distance, and I just ignored him because I was so focused on from missing the fish before to this time. I kind of just opened my bail and dropped my rod tip because I didn't want no resistance. Like whatever this fish was, I wanted to catch it. So I dropped my rod tip, opened up the bail a little bit, and I let him eat it. And when I felt the line just get real tight where I felt like I know he had it in his mouth, I closed the bell, and instead of setting the hook, I just leaned back on him because I was fishing with the hooks that I was using. You really don't typically want to set the hook on them. It was closer to a circle hook. So I just kind of leaned back on it. And when I leaned back on it, I just felt my rod just bounce. And I was like, I've never felt that before. So I was like, I know this is a different fish. And then my buddy Brian was like, also the guide was like, man, it looks like a sailfish. Right when he said that, keep in mind, Brian was probably about half a mile away from me. And he's just yelling and screaming, you got a sailfish, maybe a quarter of a mile, but it was quite a distance. And then that fish came up and he just started screaming like, yes. And I was just focused and I could just hear everything. I could feel everything. And I just sat there and I just kept pointing my boat towards the fish. I didn't let him outrun me. As fast as that fish was, I just totally focused. I was totally game. And I just kept fighting the fish. And then I tightened the drag a little bit more because the storm was coming in closer and closer and closer. So I was like, okay, I don't want to rush it and lose the fish, but I don't want to sit here and get caught by thunderstorms and whatnot. So, the time was ticking on my back. So I just, stayed focused. And before I knew it, Brian was right next to me. Right when Brian showed up, he videotaped the whole, I think the third or fourth jump. And it was pretty cool, man, to see all that much action on a fish. And you could just see my drag just peeling as he was just running. That was the fastest fish I've ever caught, was a sailfish. And my guess is somewhere in the 8+ foot range. So it was a big sailfish. He had a big body on him. As fast as I caught him, as fast as, released him really fast. He still had all this color, so he wasn't even brown yet. So, it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool experience. And I just felt like I don't ever remember being that focused on a fish. It's been a while, but it was just, I was totally game on it. I think last time I remember that was hunting for big trout. But other than that, I mean, that was the trip. Hope you enjoyed that story.
Dang.
I'm done, man. That's good. I'm out.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
And of course, as a side note, Merriel still prefers to catch gaff top. So
Yes. It's the exact.
Yeah. So in order, that experience is definitely that's on my bucket list. Tim, I'm sure that if you had the opportunity, you would take that in a heartbeat too, right?
Yeah. What was the charter? What was the name of that charter, Merriel? Was it Last Cast, or what are they called?
One Last Cast guide service.
Yeah, there
No,
you go.
No, that's my guide service. No, his is pushing weight chart. Yeah. Man, I'm gonna say it wrong. Pushing waters or pushing weight. He's gonna get mad at me. But look up Brian Neely. That's who it is. You can find him. I give him a couple shout outs on Instagram.
Yeah, I saw him on Instagram.
On Facebook. Awesome. Yeah, dude. The dude is one of the most he knows his fish. Like even when we were inshore hunting fish, he knew exactly where all the fish were. He knew exactly how to catch them and what you needed to do. And he was I liked his style. I think I'm gonna kind of emulate. I picked up I picked up a lot from him, but his style of fishing as a guide, I really enjoyed. I really liked it. He was more of assertive. You got to do it this way, and he's on you to let you know this is how you need to do it, and it paid off. We caught peacock bass. We caught a barracuda. Um, yeah, we caught a lot of fish, but he's on point as a guide. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Even as a guide, I enjoyed going fishing with other guides.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So part of our discussion today is going to be about, kind of planning a fishing destination trip or just planning a trip where it's away from your home waters. And as I mentioned before, Tim has a lot of experience fishing away from home as he travels a lot for these bass tournaments. And these are kayak bass tournaments, correct?
Yeah, they're all kayak tournaments.
Yeah, so that's a whole other element. Obviously, trailering a boat is one thing, but also having a kayak is a different thing. There are similarities, but
Yeah, but you
so
can't run around like that.
yeah. So, so we're going to actually split this up into three ways. One of them is going to be flying to where you're going to go to fish. The other one is going to be your like destination, like you're flying somewhere to specifically fish. That's how you're going to do it. The other one is going to be you're going on a business trip, and you're going to Florida for a business trip. You want to wet a line. How are you going to do that? And the other one, where I know Tim has a lot of experience in, is kind of traveling for these tournaments and how do you prepare and what to pack and certain things like that. So let's just start with since Merrill, that story is so fresh in your head, how did you prepare? How did you prepare for that trip to Florida? And of course, Tim, if you have any insight, just feel free to
Yeah,
jump
Yeah.
in.
yeah, definitely.
So a pack of chicken breast, some marinara sauce,
Mm.
and some lime juice, and you blended it all together in a blender, right? And you make sure when you take it with you on the boat, you drink that shit for good luck and wish for the best. No, I'm kidding. I'll just tease it. That was terrible.
That's Merrill's recipe for homemade chum. Patent pending right there.
Disclaimer: please don't do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got to remember, Timothy's also a lawyer. Thanks for the disclaimer.
Yeah.
We got a lawyer on our team.
Mental nightmare right there.
I just made sure that I knew the fish that I was going to target, so I had make sure I had the gear for the kind of fish that I was going to target. I did a little bit of research. I knew sailfish was, and then a lot of it was heavily on the guide for his guidance. But as far as clothing, I did bring extra pairs of clothing. Sun, I knew I was going to be in the sun, so I made sure I had a lot of protection. I left all my baits behind. I like to shop for baits locally, and then ask locals, say, hey, ask them for a little bit of advice. Excuse me. And also, we also went night fishing. So we caught a whole bunch of snook night fishing. So that was kind of our own thing. We kind of just, me and my buddy Juan, we kind of did our own thing at night. So asking those guys, the locals, for some advice. So even though we're only allotted a certain time of fish, we still, we didn't go there to go to sleep, hang out or anything. We actually went there to fish. So we kind of fished probably about 12 to 15 hours a day.
Dang. So
Yeah.
like what kind of gear did you bring? Did you bring your rods?
Yes, I brought my rods brought 2 inshore rods and no offshore rods. I kind of used his for the offshore, but I brought some inshore rods because kind of what we wanted to do and accomplish.
So he provided some rods to you, like he
Correct.
had some offshore rods. Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's for me. That's a big deal. Is especially the destination ones, right? Where you're planning a trip is one time. You want to plan a time to do that. You don't want to just go quick. I mean, I guess for freshwater in Texas and for some saltwater, you can do quicker trips, but time, and then just asking the guide, saying, hey, what do you have? What do I need to bring? Things like that. So you kind of know what you kind of need to plan for. That's a big one.
Which, by the way, if you're wondering about what questions to ask a guide, feel free to look at our previous episode where we actually go through what questions to ask a guide. So
there you go.
And you can find that on any of the podcasting platforms or on our Facebook page at facebook.com/OneLastCastPodcast.
There you go.
So Merrill, you brought your rods and of course some reels. So what is that situation like? Because you flew up there, right?
Yes. So I bought a rod holder case, and I did take. You could have the long ones, but I brought some 2-pieces with me, and then my reels I had them in a separate bag inside with my clothing. So I kind of always keep those different. So and then I make sure that my rods were in kind of secured enough, even though you're getting thrown around at the airport, that those rods are not going to break on me. So,
do you remember how much the baggage fee was for these rod cases?
They were oversized. So I don't know the price, but I know it does go to the oversized. So your rods will go in a different area than your luggage. So you have to put that in a total different area, your rods, when you put them in a rod case holder, just because of the length is over a certain size. So just keep that in mind if you're flying.
Yeah. Another thing that you should keep in mind too, Merriel mentioned the kind of the 1-piece tubes and also the 2-piece tube. The 2-piece is the one that you used. I work for an outdoor retailer that we specialize in skiing and snowboarding. A lot of people like to transport their skis and snowboards to where they're going to go because they have their own. And one of the things that is an issue, and I know it's an issue for fishing as well, is if you get 2-piece tubes and travel cases, they're designed to expand and collapse based upon however, there's a latch that you kind of put into it. Right. One of the pitfalls of having a 2-piece one is that, and especially for rods, because they're very sensitive and they can break real easily, is that with a 2-piece one, they can actually, whenever they're handling it, they can actually collapse it and it'll crush the rods on the inside.
Right.
So it's definitely, if you're planning on traveling, definitely try to see if you can get the 1-piece, because that's much more difficult to destroy and break your rods compared to the 2-piece. Just as a tip.
Yeah, the 2-piece that I had was where you had these lock pins. So even though it collapses and folds, it won't move. It'll stay there. And then my rod tips had some foam around them. So something to think about.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No. That is definitely wrapping them. You said you wrapped them in foam, and I'm sure you can always put a towel in there or something like that to kind of protect them. It's just something to be worried about with those 2-piece ones that even though you never know what you seen those people on the tarmac, they completely just pick up your thing and toss them up.
They're just tired. There's no love
there.
Yeah.
And where we're sitting is where we were sitting at. So we're watching them just toss our rods on the conveyor belt. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. So Tim, how about you? Have you flown anywhere for fishing tournaments or anything like that? Or
not for fishing. I've never flown. I don't know if it's just nerves because I don't want other people doing that to my stuff or what's going on. No, freshwater's, it's weird. Like, people like to drive. It's just kind of a thing in the freshwater side. But like rod lockers, I mean, a lot of people use the rod lockers on there. You see them on kayak trailers. You see them put on top of people's trucks and SUVs and stuff. I mean, those are a great option, especially because you can lock them up. Some people, Facebook, there's groups everywhere with like kayak trailer mods and things like that you can look up. Oh man, it's awesome. I mean, you can get all these great ideas for rod locker storage for transport, like big PVC pipes.
Oh yeah,
just all kinds of stuff. So like on the freshwater side, a lot of people do that. Honestly, I'm cheap, man. I throw them in my truck. That's how I transport my stuff and I drive. So
yeah. And for those that don't know, for us kayakers, we're a weird bunch. We like to make our own stuff. But a lot of it is over-engineered.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we want that seat on the kayak, and it's not, we're gonna figure out a way to put the seat. It may not be the best way, but we're gonna have a seat on there.
For real.
And I'm imagining it's the same thing for these rod lockers. They could be,
PVC.
PVC,
like 3 to 5 inch PVC pipe.
Just big old suckers. You can throw all kinds of stuff in there and lock them up.
It looks like they've just pulled it out of the garbage, but it works.
It makes it just a pain enough that nobody wants to actually break into your stuff. There's like, and they just walk away from it.
So obviously, that's like kind of flying there. But like you Tim, you drive a lot to your location, to do these tournaments. Is that, how do you prepare for something like that? Because I don't think it's just a matter of I'm going to fish a tournament or I'm going to go here and fish and I'm going to just pack up my kayak and go. I'm sure there's an element of planning into that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even some of the Texas tournaments, that are across the state, we'll go down for a few days. I don't have the luxury, as Merriel said, I'm a lawyer by profession, so I don't have the luxury of getting like whole weeks like some people do. But no, I mean, usually I try to go plan at least a couple days of pre-fishing, if not 3 days. 3 days is kind of like my ideal, right, for a tournament, and so. Um, I just try to be efficient, and instead of having to spend all that time on site, you can use all the technology available to you, like we were talking about the Google Earth and the history, right? You can go through and look at all the history and historical images of areas and stuff, and do a lot of really great map study. And I think that's a big key, especially if you're tournament fishing. But if you're going somewhere without a guide who's not going to teach you how to fish in this area, you're just going to drive up there because you've always wanted to go fish there with some buddies. Map study is also going to help you out. So I think that's something that's overlooked a lot of times, is just spending that little bit of extra time doing maps and planning, like your routes, where you're going to launch, how much it's going to cost you to launch. Some of these lakes in Texas are $25 to launch a kayak. It's ridiculous. So yeah, just little things like that come in handy a lot when you're pre-planning for long trips. So
Yeah, that's great. How about one of the most common questions that we see, and Meryl, I know you've seen it too, is like, where do you like stay? And I know with the boat it's especially difficult because there's always these kayaks are our babies here, and I know some places you can't, I know people, you see it online. Yeah, just find a motel where on the bottom floor and you can take your kayak inside the room with you.
Right.
But of course, if this is like a kind of a family vacation / fishing trip, I don't think you want your wife or your significant other would want a kayak in the room with them with the kids.
They don't
So
have a choice. They don't have a choice.
so the kayak gets to bed and we sleep on the floor, right?
yeah,
That's right.
you're sleeping on the kayak, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
it.
how do you plan? What do you look for something like that?
You're referring to me or
Yeah,
Timothy?
anybody, both of y'all. I mean,
You
I
want me
know
to go
that
first, Timothy?
yeah, go first, Meryl.
Yeah. I want to see what you say.
Yeah, I just sleep in my kayak, man. I just go out and as soon as I get there, jump in the water, just sleep in my kayak. No, I'm just kidding. Now, location. I try to be like, if I'm fishing an area, I mean, I've been on other trips, other like we've been to Louisiana. We try to like be like as close as we can to the water, and then an area like cabins where you can actually park your kayak in and know that it's going to be safe. So I typically don't stay at hotels or motel. I'm more of like cabins by the water. That way I know that my kayak, even though I got my kayak, I guess paranoid, but I got my kayak locked down to the trailer or the back of the truck, whatever I'm doing. So I kind of knowing that I have a peace of mind that I'm in a cabin or a gated area are things that I kind of look for so I can sleep. If I do decide to sleep, I get to sleep good.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that's part of the planning part. It's like, where are you going to stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I always try, if I'm going to stay in a hotel, I always try to find a hotel that we can stay in that our door is close to our vehicle, like that, so you can at least hear somebody trying to get your kayak off. If you get an Airbnb, it's great, right? Because you can really pack stuff in there and people can't get stuff out as easily. But the lock, man, nobody, people just buy locks sometimes or whatever. Like, nah, man, you need to engineer the toughest daggone thing you
Yeah.
got. It has to go through your scupper.
Yeah.
Like, you have to make sure, like, little things that you can do that, because if you don't, those guys are still gonna be able to take your stuff, and it's not gonna matter. And I don't know, man. With the way shipping and stuff's going right now, a kayak may sell without a seat. Somebody may still buy it if they steal it. So it's like you just never know. Like you can lock your stuff in your vehicle, right? But it's the kayak that you got to watch that kind of stuff and pay attention to where you're parked and where you're staying. That's a big one.
Yeah. And the stuff that you can bring in, I'm assuming that or at least I would bring in with me.
Yeah. We usually bring in our rods and our tackle.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually what they go for, is the rods and tackle. I mean, if they can get your kayak and seat and stuff, they will. But we'll bring in at least our rods and our tackle at night, just because you never know.
Yeah, and I know for freshwater, I think it's much easier to kind of get these cabins or even these camping spots that are right next to the lake.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say something else when you said easier.
Oh,
yeah. You still haven't come up here, Merriel.
I take everybody to Sheldon, right? Where it is easy.
Dang fish farm over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's easier to, at least in my experience, I've been camping on a few lakes, and some of them I'm right up on the water, and I can literally just pack up and I'm right there on the water and I can launch. State parks. One of the best places I've ever been. And we stayed at a cabin there, was at the Ozark Lakes in Missouri. And the guy next to me, next to our cabin, he had his kayak outside, like right there. And he just went out every morning and caught like smallmouth bass and other fish, but he literally just picked it up. It was on the cart, took it like 30 yards down, and he was right at the water at the ramp. That's so awesome. I know for those is some of those are a little bit easier, but for like saltwater, you kind of have to hopefully your place that you rent, like the hotel that you go to, that you have that option to hopefully bring it inside the room with you, or Airbnb that you can put it in like the garage area of the house or whatever. So I guess another part is if you were to drive everywhere. So I know that, Tim, you drive everywhere to your competitions and stuff like that. In your experience, what are the kind of pitfalls of driving and kayaking and bringing all your stuff with you?
One,
loading and unloading.
One is probably a huge waste of money. That's probably the first thing. But it's a blast, and I'll still do it anyways. No, it's I mean, it really is. Like especially if you're going long distance. Like last year I drove to the Upper Mississippi, the Hobie tournament, Upper Mississippi in Wisconsin, on the river up there. And so it was like 22 and a half hours, I think, of driving. I just had like, everything in this Tacoma in my car, dude. Everything was loaded to the rim. It was horrible. But like once you get there, it's fine because you can kind of spread out with like campgrounds or, and then I had a hotel the night before the tournament. I think it really is. It's this space thing. Like that's why a lot of guys get trailers now when they're traveling with their kayaks, because, you put your stuff back there in the bed of the truck and you can use the trailer for your kayaks and you can take a lot more stuff. It's a little bit nicer than like sharing your armrest with your barbecue grill that you're bringing along with you. It's
a cooler on your neck, just so I can't you're driving like this.
Yeah, it's this idiot driving to Tacoma to Wisconsin, loaded down with everything. So,
actually, kind of interject a little bit, but a funny story is whenever I moved to my new house where we're at, I made one specific trip from our apartment to the house with just fishing gear. So I had all these rods. I had like my 40 or 50 rods, and in an SUV, and they're all like sticking out between me. And I was trying to turn right, and I turned my head, and I like stabbed myself in the eye with the rods because I kept forgetting that they're right there. So yeah, so I completely understand. Like you're packed to the rim full of all these things.
It sucks.
Yeah.
Get a bigger truck. Don't take it to Tacoma.
There you go.
There's my advice. Big vehicle if you're going to do it. Maybe a trailer. Yeah, it's
Like,
definitely.
you notice how people they actually start modifying their trailer to hold everything, like almost like they start like the trailer starts getting like modified more and more and more.
Yeah. Rod holders. Some people put like little grills on them, like attach little dude. Oh man, you can do.
I like the ones with the little box where you put all your like seats and drives and stuff in up front. Like that's
the
pretty
lockbox.
Cool.
Yeah. Steel lockbox. Oh yeah, there's really cool. I'm telling you, the kayak Facebook group saw those home engineers making this awesome stuff.
Yeah. And some of them, they, you know, we joke a lot, but some of them actually look really like almost professionally made. Whereas other ones, it just looks like we stacked a bunch of 2x4s and nailed them together.
Yeah.
But
I'm on the cheaper end. I'm on the cheaper end. It's going in the truck.
So just a big old flat sheet of plywood, right? Those two, or it's just one flat sheet. Like, yeah, that's not ideal.
So, you know, Tim, we were talking earlier, and some of the things that you said that people should bring on these trips. I think you're talking about pulleys and other stuff. Is there stuff that that as an experienced traveler as yourself when you're going about and fishing, is there stuff that we should bring that you've experienced?
Yeah. Parts. Merriel will probably back me up on this. Like spare parts is good to have. That would be a good thing. You know,
yeah.
You don't end up like me, you know, breaking all the teeth off your spine, and then you're like, oh, I don't have a drive. You know, spare parts would be good. I always like to bring extra cordage. You know, especially people that use it for their cables and stuff like that, and then just like the Allen wrenches, the tools to be able to work on your kayak. If you really want to get prepared, you know, the pulley cables with the chains for Hobies, or you know, whatever spare props you got for other brands. For me, spare parts is like one of the biggest things you can't forget. Like if you don't bring spares and you're way over there, it can make for a really bad time, especially if there's not a kayak shop somewhere around there.
And actually, I would even say most of the time there's probably not a kayak shop around there.
Yeah, it totally depends. Like it's hit or miss. So it's like you may be screwed, like me one day, and not be able to. You have to call a buddy and say, do you got a spare? Something you can bring me?" And if you're a ways away, you might be out of luck. So.
Lee says, "Don't forget your rod and reels." Yeah, that's kind of a good one. You don't want to get without those. Yeah, for sure. Now, spare parts like an X factor, right? Is what we're referring to. Definitely, I bring a little box. Like in that box, I have Gorilla Tape. I have a little torch, screwdriver, like a whole bunch of little tools in case like some does break down. Like Timothy was saying, I can actually fix it on the water. I've been in several situations where I'm offshore or I'm like several miles offshore, and then bam, we got a leak somewhere, you know, or something. And you got to be prepared to have these extra things because, you know, you're at that point, your life depends on it, you know? So having that little, box there ready and you know, and you get those boxes by talking to like other experienced anglers that kind of know, you know, been doing this for a while and they know what to expect. And they have that box of wisdom, I would say, that helped them where situations where, man, I wish I had tape. Man, I wish I had a screwdriver. Man, I wish I had an Allen wrench. Man, I wish I had a Hobie spine. You know?
Yeah. But, man, I should have brought another drive.
Yeah. But, Lee brings up a good point. I always do bring them extra reel because I've been in situations where reel works perfectly fine, and then I get out in the water, all of a sudden something happens. So I always bring a backup reel. So
usually I just keep one in my truck. I don't take it with me in the water. Though I think I told the story one time. It was like during the winter, and I came across. It was like 40 degrees outside, and I came across this killer topwater bite. And it was a brand new Corrado G7, the G series, which sucks. Don't ever buy that. But I brand new out of the box, just spooled it up. I did and I made a cast with it, and it felt great. But it's just they replaced some components in there with some cheap plastic parts, and I caught this really, really nice trout, nice redfish, all in top water. and my next fish, it was a huge trout, came up and smashed my she dog, and started peeling out some line, and then I heard a chink, and then it started rattling, and it just seized up because I think that
Ooh.
plastic part, whatever it was that broke,
Dang.
just got caught somewhere, and it just seized up, and it just
That
broke the
fish got
line.
off.
It just got off.
Oh.
And like I was like, "What the heck is
Dang.
wrong with this?" And eventually, I got it working again, but like I cast it out and I couldn't re-engage the reel. So I'm like, "What the heck?" So in order to get that spot, I had to walk like a little over a mile to get there. So I had to
Mm.
walk back because I didn't carry the spare reel with me. I walked back and then came back, and I got a couple more fish, but I know in between that like 40 minutes that it took me to go through that distance that I
Yeah.
missed out on some great fishing right there. So yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I take is fishing line, man.
Oh,
Really?
Along the lines of that, I always take spare spools. Just
yeah.
'cause you never know when you're gonna be an idiot and spool something, mess it up, or a fish is
See,
gonna do it to you, or whatever. You just never
I
know.
learned the hard way, dude. I can't tell you how many tournaments I've been in where the line snapped on me. It was like a curse. Like it's like, man, I couldn't find a good fishing line to save my life. I've been through like all, and I think it has to do with the amount of fishing I do. And I think one of my buddies brought up a good point: saltwater fishing. Sometimes the salt, when you're fishing a lot, gets if you don't rinse, it's kind of hard to rinse out your whole line, you know. But the salt will probably get into that braid, and I used a lot of braid. And man, the line didn't last more than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even a month. I think one that lasted a month was pretty good for me. And then I finally got some decent line that I fished with. But man, extra spool, I kind of learned the hard way of not bringing extra line. But now I make it a habit to change out my line, make sure my line is squared away. I can't tell you how many fish I lost though with snap braid line especially.
Yeah, it's nice to have. I mean, like if you notice you're fishing and you notice your line's like bad line, you can just unspool it real quick and re-spool something real quick if you need to.
Right.
Especially if I know like for the offshore stuff, you're not bringing a ton of rods. You've only got like 1 or 2, maybe 3 rods or whatever, and so you don't really have a whole bunch of extra rods you could just switch out and use. And so
right. Yeah.
And actually, for you as a bass angler, how many rods do you take with you?
That's a very debatable subject.
The reason why I asked, so actually Merriel and I were talking about this a few episodes ago, where I think Merriel, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if I remember correctly, we
one
like
rod,
to keep
one reel, one lure. That's it.
we like to keep it simple. For me, it's just I carry 2 rods at max. But
funny.
I understand that like for freshwater fishing, you have like your frog rod, your punching rod, your drop shot. You have all these different types of pattern specific rods. So for you, how much do you carry on your tournament day?
Well, I just want to lay the framework for this. That bass, you have to understand that bass are like moody teenage girls. And so you just have to approach them very differently. You just never know what it's going to take to get them. But no, I carry my number is 8. I might go up to 10 sometime, but 8's kind of been a good number for me because I can have different techniques. And so, like I fish tournaments a lot, so time is a thing for me, and so it's an efficiency thing for us. We're able to have multiple things tied on, and then if that doesn't work, well, then you're really screwed. You just got to go junk fishing. But it's like 8 is good for me, but man, some of these guys carry tons of rods. That's not me. And then some of these dudes roll with 4 and just take everybody's money. So it really just depends, man. It's like definitely your confidence baits. I mean, that's my thing for freshwater. Carry at least a couple of your confidence baits at all times. You'll fish well with them no matter what. You'll find a way to fish good with them.
A Cinco.
No, man, a frog. What are you talking about?
Yeah, frog. My first time on Sheldon was with a frog, and dude, I had a blast, dude. I mean, it was so much fun.
Frog is where it's at.
Yeah. Anyways, That's enough
Yep.
fresh water for me.
Yeah. So
Moody teenage girls, just remember that. That's
yeah.
what that's
Okay.
As a disclaimer, these are not our thoughts. These are strictly the ideas and thoughts of Tim Rodman here. We're not. We're,
That's so funny.
um,
Freshwater stepchild.
yeah. So, I guess in terms of traveling, it doesn't sound terribly. I mean, there is some complexity to it from the initial planning stage, but I mean, once you plan it out, it sounds like we're good to go basically. Um, like figure out how you're going to get the rods to wherever you're going to go. Oh, actually, what if you don't have a rod and reel? Tim, you had a really good suggestion. I think you should share.
Oh yeah, and my rambling brilliance backstage just
Yeah.
escaped me. Uh, no, it's you see it a lot in the kayak community, the social media community for kayak fishing, like Kayak Bass Nation stuff like that, DSK. Like people will contact each other, and if you're going somewhere, like especially for like a business trip or whatever, and you're only going to be there for a couple days, you don't really want to pay to get your stuff there. You just contact other people on social media. You just reach out to people, and a lot of times people will let you borrow their stuff. I mean, they'll even go fishing with you. It's kind of one of those things. Now getting to borrow somebody's kayak is one thing. I don't know. I don't know if you can pull that one.
I've had buddies that let me use kayaks too. It's like,
see, there you go.
Like leave it there, like I'd be like, man, or rent a kayak. Like find if there's a spot. I rented a couple down here in Corpus a couple times just to get my mind right,
Rent them over at FTU. You can get them over
there. FTU, yeah. Fishing Tackle Unlimited. That's a good one. Thanks, Timothy.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Nick.
He was on here early.
Oh yeah, that's all.
But awesome. So long road trips, I do like to take if it's a long drive, I like to take a break in between. Like if I'm gonna drive like to the Keys of Florida, I'd like to probably chill at the Panhandle for a day, and then that way it's not a solid drive. Some of you guys are straight warriors, especially you bastards. I mean, I heard y'all driving like just straight there, like golly, that's I'd take a break, man.
We might have something wrong with us. That's probably the issue. We spend a lot of money chasing the fish we don't even eat. So
yeah, that's true.
It's kind of an interesting thing. No, I saw a comment talking about the a fishing plan. That's actually a really important thing.
Right.
Whenever I go anywhere, even locally, I always let my wife know where I'm going. Say, hey, I'm going to fish this area. My wife's not going to go sell my fishing spots or anything. So, I always let her know where I'm going and say, hey, my plan is to fish this area and stuff, because sometimes you don't even have cell phone signal in some of these places, right? And so that's actually a really good comment. That's something you should always do. Let somebody know what your plan is. And that's like each day, not just overall. It's each day. Hey, I'm going to fish here. Hey, I'm going to fish in this area. Because you never know. I flipped on the Mississippi River. My idiot self flipped trying to pull my anchor in the wind, and I lost like my phone and some other stuff. And so it's like you never know what's going to happen.
If you guys have a fish plan, and you're catching a lot of fish, make sure you let me know where you're at for safety.
Yeah, or that.
For safety reasons.
You should charge him $20 a pop, by the way, for that.
For your fish plan.
Yeah, $20.
I'll pay $20 as long as you're catching fish.
but I think that's I see it a lot more for the offshore guys who go BTB. They have that kind of quote unquote float plan. But I think it should apply to whenever you go out in the water. Always tell somebody what you're going to be doing. We
had somebody die
when
out
you go to
here.
guide school, I mean, when you go take these courses, these paddle craft courses, they actually teach you, what's a proper fish plan, and that's anytime you even go hit the water to have a fish plan and have a safety, safety first. So make sure people know what you're doing. It's called a float plan. Yeah. But
Tim, what were you saying?
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. It's just people don't realize how important it is every time you go in the water. Because over here at Lake Conroe, just down the street from me, we have at least one person die on that lake every year. Like it's guaranteed every year somebody dies on that lake because of the wind or the wake, or there's a lot of seawalls and stuff. People get knocked over. I mean, people drown. So
yeah, it gets nasty out there, man.
Yeah, it's always good to let people know every time you go in the water, like Merriel said.
Oh, that meme where it's like it's calm on the weekdays and it's like a washing machine on the weekend.
Yeah,
that's Lake Conroe right there.
Yeah, from
Right.
like May to September, it's a nightmare for sure.
Yeah. I guess I wanted to get into some of these questions that some of our people who are on the live stream, which, by the way, if you want to join our live streams, we go live. Looks like we were going to try to do every other Wednesday. But just go to facebook.com/One Last Cast podcast, and we'll tell you whenever we will be going live next. But if you come onto our Facebook page and see when we go live, you can join us and ask questions, talk to us. Definitely want to hear from y'all. Let's see. One of the questions that I saw was, here we go. So from Chris, how do I convince a wife that I need to bring a rod and reel on vacation?
So you get to a point like where you just bring it, like and she understands. You're just like, I'm bringing one, and it's always a 2-piece. I like to carry a 2-piece with me, 2 breakaway rods and a spinning reel. I always bring one with me. Just I have it just there, natural.
If you want to test your marriage and understand how strong it is, you can bring 1 pieces and just do it. And see what happens.
Make sure the rod's pointed right next to her, like that way it's just like
the rod lockers are great. You can stick stuff outside of the vehicle.
The other option is to just not tell her and get one of those telescopic poles and reels.
Wish, baby.
Yeah.
Wish.
And then 5 o'clock in the morning, wake up, say I'm going fishing, and just walk out.
Do it while they're sleeping is the best, right?
Yeah.
You just come to the house with breakfast and waking up and you're like, yeah, hey, here you go. I have breakfast. Here's some donuts and kolache.
Why do you smell like fish?
Yeah. Let me take a quick shower.
Yeah. Funny story about that. I was walking outside and a fish just hit me in the face. I don't know what happened. It's this weird Florida weather,
Yeah, that's what it is.
So funny.
We have one from Bobby. Maybe Merrill, you have a better idea because I'm not sure about camping in Matagorda. But hey guys, I'm looking to plan a weekend trip to the Matagorda area for camp and yak. What do you guys think would be a good place? I'm assuming is what he's asking.
Well, I like the 3 Mile. That's a pretty cool spot.
Yeah, I'm not.
Just look it up. 3 Mile spot.
Is that just a stretch of beach you can camp on, or is that like a?
Yeah. You just come down Maddie. Come down to the Maddie. And I don't even know the highways, but you're coming down into Matagorda and you hang a left. But it's a 3 Mile spot.
Are there any like state parks or anything down there?
No, I don't know. That's just where I'd camped at before.
Oh, dang.
It's a nice, good area. Like you can pull up in, and you got to make sure you have 4-wheel drive too, just in case if the water, sand gets a little soft on you.
Yeah, that's fair.
But check it out, man.
Awesome. And actually, that brings up a good question. So, whenever you're traveling, you said you have a Tacoma for traveling, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that if you're traveling any sort of distance, and especially for these tournaments, you wouldn't want a larger vehicle to cram as much stuff into it as possible, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's kind of a trade-off. Like, you want to spend the money on the gas, or you want to have the space? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
No. I mean, a standard size pickup is definitely enough space. Like, if I get it at Tacoma, you can definitely have enough space in a standard size vehicle.
Yeah.
But you see guys with bed covers and stuff a lot of times as well.
And Merrill did bring up a good point as well on the 4-wheel drive. I'm not sure about for freshwater, but I know whenever we go other places and to explore and whatnot, 4-wheel drive is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, it comes in handy. I've been in
Yeah.
some pretty sketchy situations.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Actually, especially now with
some
some
of those freshwater guys, they have to drive on like dirt roads instead of regular roads.
Yeah.
But dude, Broken Bow, Oklahoma, do not launch at the East Ramp location in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. The lake is like a destination lake. It's beautiful, but they don't tell you that you have to go up and around and swirling and back down this like granite chopped road on this steep mountain road.
I think when I first started learning spots, I think I lost about 4 license plates.
Oh,
So that's the rough, dude.
That
like
was
you're
not
just
okay.
Like, you ever see that Ace Ventura movie where he's just like straight like? Yeah, that was real life though.
Yeah. 4-wheel drive is super handy, like freshwater, saltwater. Like you can get yourself in pretty stupid situations with the kayak.
Yeah, I know right now, especially a lot of the lakes that are experiencing drought and are like 100 feet below what they normally are, and the ramps don't go down the lake anymore. That you would want that 4-wheel drive to get down to where the water is, so you can actually launch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some of them. I mean, you see ATV marks. You see them on Google Earth. All the little ATV marks, and it's a drought. People out driving on the lake beds. Oh yeah.
Medina Lake was when we went. When I went to Medina Lake, that one was really low. It was crazy to see where the houses used to be and where the water used to be, and how much it's went down. That is just crazy. The amount of water that's no longer there.
Yeah, freshwater is weird. And it just depends on where it's at. Like part of the country, it's just so different. It varies a lot. Yeah.
There's another question that we have from Lee here. What are the things that you need to get prepared to a successful day when wading?
Do you bass guys wade fish?
What's that? What's wade fishing? No, I'm gonna let Merriel take the lead on that one. I don't do a ton of wade fishing. So.
You know, I would love to take the lead on this, but I know Jonathan who loves wade. I wade fish a lot, but I think Jonathan actually enjoys it.
So from my experience on wade fishing, I got it. Well, there's a different reason for the kayak, but my other reason for getting a kayak is that I can hop out and wade.
Yeah,
I can get to other places where normally people can't, so I can hop out and wade.
Awesome.
So what you need to prepare for Galveston during the summer, you don't really need a lot. And again, I'm always about keeping it very simple, because if you have a whole list of things that you want to bring, you're gonna forget something. So usually I actually have a bin in my car that I take in and out that carries all my wade gear. So during the summer, all you need is boots and long pants, definitely long pants, because of jellies. Jellyfish things hurt. But you need your wading boots, your long pants, your shirt. I've created or you can buy a wade over the shoulder wade box. So if you make your own, get the HydroFlow Plano one, which has holes in it. That way, that whenever you submerge it in water, you can drain the water out. Just when you get home, just rinse it out. That way, all the salt kind of gets out of the lures. And you just create straps so it's over on your shoulder here. Attached to my shoulder, I always get the pliers with the sheath. So that way I have a sheath plier right there that I can use. And then your wade belt. The wade belt really is only there to attach a wade net and the stringer. Yep. And that's it.
I would recommend. I do have so I've been in a situation with the stringer while I was wade fishing. Not sponsored by this guy or anything, but the grind stringers, man, those are, so you could actually stretch out those stringers. They got 12-foot ones. That way, if there's sharks around and they hit that, you're clear out of distance from it. You know, those short stringers, you know, people get bumped by, you know, I've been bumped by a short stringer. I also been dragged in the water by one. I was standing on the bank and I had my stringer tied to the kayak, and I was walking on the bank and had a rope tied to the kayak and a stringer tied to the kayak. So the kayak was in the middle in the water as I'm walking along this bank, and it was like a big old drop off, so the kayak can easily move as I'm working this this bank. I'll just right there by Goat Island, you know how it just drops right that. And shark hit it and took it, and it almost dragged me in the water, and it was a steel leader. Almost got caught in a situation. Good thing they got free. But
Yeah, definitely don't tie the stringer. Like I've seen people who like tie like the stringer to knot on their belt. Like
a
don't
quick
do
release
that.
is perfect. Yeah, I like the quick release. That way, if you're getting, you can just hit that button and boom, stringer's gone. You ain't worried about your life, and
Yep.
or you have a long enough stringer, so if they hit that stringer, it's fine. Because you're gonna get, especially during the summertime, you're gonna have shark encounters, especially if you're catching fish. And if you don't have any shark encounters, probably because you're not catching fish. No, I'm just kidding. I was just teasing.
I was gonna say because you haven't been on the water long enough.
Yeah.
I think if you're on the water long enough, eventually it's gonna happen. I'm sure for you, Tim, have you dealt with gators for bass fishing?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I've dealt with sharks. But these stupid taxman, man. I got the taxman back one time and actually kept a few of them and ate them. I got my payback. Yeah, no, those grind stringers are great. I actually have one of those too.
Yeah.
Mike made me. But yeah, gators, dude. Not everywhere. Gators are kind of different. They're a little more. I guess they watch you for a minute before they do anything, and like some places they don't bother you at all, right? And then you got some places where they're used to interacting with people, and if you catch a big fish anywhere near the gator will come after your fish sometimes. I've seen it happen at Sheldon, like Merriel was talking about. Lake Raven, like the gators at Lake Raven, I swear the stupid things are pets out there. Like they'll chase your fish. They're real bad about getting close to you. But no, the taxman's worse. I hate that stupid taxman. You feel that on your stringer.
Even if you have it like you're sitting in your kayak and you just feel a little tug, you already know.
Yeah,
If you feel a little thump in that tug,
your kayak suddenly goes, and you're like, what was it? Oh man.
Yep.
Yeah. Taxman.
Yep.
And going back to the question, it's actually the same thing, a similar thing for the winter. The only thing during the winter is that it's I just bring waders with me. So that's basically all you need to really prepare. If you do live bait, just make sure you bring your aerator and your like the flow troll bucket. But like I said, for everything else, I just carry that on my that my wade box, which I actually have two of them. One of them is for summer or the warmer months, and then once it gets to winter, I have a different box that I bring out with me. So that's how I kind of keep everything in order, and that's all I grab.
Have you ever had a shark try to take your bait bucket? That's what I want to know.
Yes, because the fish were on the bait. So yeah. So one of the downsides, of having, I was using croaker again. This is one of the downsides of using croaker. So again, you don't want to bring too much stuff out there. I see people who would basically they bring two stringers out there. One of them is for fish, and one of them is for their bait bucket. So for me, I bring one where I thread it through the hole of the bait bucket. That way, it's attached, and your bait bucket is just basically a giant float that carries your bait. So whenever I string my fish, they're all at the end. They all slide down to the end, and I've had. Go ahead.
That always surprises me that people like in Florida, like those guys are just straight live bait people. I mean, it's a must. But in Texas, it almost seems like it's kind of like a 50-50, like either you're bait or you're artificial guys. It's weird, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. Us Texans are a weird bunch. So
yeah, that's true.
Like
awesome.
like these
bunch.
Awesome.
Well,
I mean, Tim, you said you're a bass fisher in a weird bunch, so that just makes you even weirder. So
dude. Don't even get me
You're
started.
like the weird and weirder.
The Texas bass fishing scene, man.
Yeah. That even adds to it.
That's too hardcore for a fish we don't even eat.
We need to do an episode where we talk more about bass fishing, and I would really like an episode because we do have a lot of bass fishermen in our group, and maybe do a segment on bass fishing. You think you can come back and join us, Timothy, for that?
Yeah, we'll teach you how to catch them, and y'all can actually eat them. I won't cry about it. I don't care. Bass taste good, fried up. Bass taste delicious, just like other fish. So
I'm very intrigued about how bass taste because I heard they're called ditch pickles, and I like pickles.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Pickles are good for
Dude,
you. I've heard.
bass is underrated. I mean, you'll hear some guys say, "Oh man, bass doesn't taste like it." Those are just the closet guys. Don't eat the bass. No, man, bass tastes good. I mean, it reminds me. It kind of reminds me of white bass. You just have a good fish fry and
yeah.
eat
Oh,
it. Good, man. I love bass.
I like white bass.
I hope none of my fellow tournament fishermen are watching this. I'm gonna get ostracized, maybe.
Oh no, we're
Yeah,
gonna share the
cast out
clip
of the
out of this.
community. You
It's
ate
gonna be in
bass?
it's gonna be on all of the forums tomorrow. Tim Rodman likes to eat bass.
Bass tournament fisherman eating his own money pit.
He says when they're over 5 pounds, they're even better.
Oh man, please don't eat those. Gosh, all right, I'm not going that far. That's all you, buddy.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely if you guys for you listeners out there, if you want to hear a bass fishing segment or even a freshwater segment, just leave us a message on our One Last Cast podcast Facebook page, so facebook.com/One Last Cast podcast. Send me an email, do whatever. We definitely want to hear from you, and yeah, we'll definitely try to see if we can get that situated. Um, I think that's all the questions that we have for now. Um, so, Tim, do you have any last words on kind of traveling and fishing that you would like to impart on our listeners?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to drop a little freshwater nugget. So I want to give a little shout out to a place that I feel like is a destination fishing area for freshwater. You know, I know a lot of the saltwater guys are like, "Oh, your bass don't have teeth and stuff." Well, this place got fish with teeth, so you're good. Yeah, no, it's actually the Upper Mississippi, the whole river chain up there in Wisconsin. There's like you were talking about. There's a lot of camping availability up there. The Wisconsin Recreation Department is awesome about that. But there's a lot of Airbnbs in the area. The hotels are cheap if you want to do that. But that river system is amazing. I mean, you can get smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, big old pike. You can find muskie in the area. And there's a lot of destination smallmouth fisheries in the area. It's a really cool place. And it's really easy to take your family up there. People are used to a lot of fishing tournaments coming through there. It's beautiful, and the people are really nice. So that's definitely something I would recommend if you're looking for a freshwater trip, like to actually travel. That would be a good one. And if you want to do local, uh, Devil's River guides, the guys that are guiding on the Devil's River trips, that's a really awesome freshwater experience. It's absolutely beautiful out there in that part of Texas. So,
Well, actually, it's now that you said that, I also wanted to impart some destination areas for freshwater, and I mentioned it earlier, but the Lake Ozark in Missouri, the place we actually stayed at was the Bass Pro Shop Resort.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which, by the way, before you go to the actual Lake Ozark, stop in Springfield, um, and go to the Bass Pro Shop headquarters.
Spend money.
Spend money, but also they have. It's weird, but they have one of the best aquariums I've ever been to, and it's in the middle of nowhere. It's in in the middle of the United States, nowhere near like like the salt and ocean and stuff like that. But they have one of the best aquariums that I've ever been to. Um, and they also within that aquarium they have a section that's dedicated to basically like bass fishing, like all the the BASS and all the competition and tournaments that they've done.
Yeah.
It is an amazing place to go. And then afterwards, go stay at the Bass Pro Shop resorts. You can camp there. You can rent a room there, or cabin. We did the cabin route. Like I said, that you can get right off the water, put in your kayak, go get a guide or whatever you want to do. And like 30 minutes away, there's it's like Dog Ridge Canyon or something like that, Dogwood Canyon, I believe. It's about half an hour away, and they have an amazing like there's a stream that runs through the entire park, and you can pay to fish it. And there were so many trout in there. Like we did a
That's
bike
awesome.
ride. We did a bike ride and
Sold. Let's
yeah,
go.
I was just like, there's a trout there, there's a trout there. There's sections where they don't allow you to fish, but they have a section where it was a bunch of albino trout, and they were huge. Like because nobody could catch them, you aren't allowed to catch them. But there's like this one pool of water where it's just a bunch of these big old fat looking like 10-pound, albino trout. They're just swimming around.
Oh,
Yeah,
Wow.
like
what a tease, man.
yeah,
What a tease. Who's gonna go there? I hate
Did
this
he had me at the aquarium and he just keeps going.
yeah. So
Dude, it's pretty up there. A lot
It
of those
is.
lakes up there are beautiful. Broken Bow Lake in
Mhm.
Oklahoma is another one that's absolutely beautiful up there. It's
Yeah.
up in the mountains. Yeah.
Okay, Merriel, we're gonna leave it with you. Where should we go?
Oh,
Not Sheldon.
I'm actually gonna go there. Well, I'll just say South Padre. We're gonna head down there this weekend. Try our luck on some pones and see if we get lucky.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think Wednesday, was it Wednesday? I don't know. So sometime, maybe Monday. No, it was not too long ago. We had a lot of tarpon in our base system where they'd come up and go back down, and we just couldn't get them to bite. Couldn't get lucky. I think James Plog caught one, but we'll try down south soon and get some more aggressive ones. So definitely head down south. I love the water. I love the life down there. It's probably six hours from Houston. But there's a lot of life down there.
Yeah. So awesome. So if you guys, any of you listeners ever go to any of these 3 places, let us know how it went. And again, thank you for listening. Tim, I want to thank you for joining us. Definitely a lot of knowledge that you shared. And we will definitely bring you back on for our bass segment. Because I know almost absolutely nothing about bass.
5 years. I will get you 5 years. I can guarantee
there you go.
5.
All right. So what everybody hear that whenever you listen to us next time about bass fishing, you're going to gain 5 years of knowledge. And as a lawyer, that has to be factually correct. So
Hey, I don't know about knowledge. Maybe learning from mistakes over here.
So again, everybody, thank you guys for listening. This is One Last Cast podcast. If you guys want to leave us a message or do anything like that, you can visit us online at facebook.com/One Last Cast podcast. Also, we're on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify, etc. Download our episodes there, and we will see you guys next time.
Take care, guys.
See ya.